Hi, I'm Kimberly Washburn, Curator of Education at the Florence County Museum. Welcome to November's Family Day at Home. Today, we're going to be working together to create a leaf suncatcher mobile. Now, I'm going to give you several different options for how you can display these. But first, let's work together to create these beautiful leaf suncatchers. You're going to need to gather a few things from your Family Day at Home kit. You're going to need your 2 sheets of contact paper. They're probably rolled up together, but there are 2 sheets there. And on those 2 sheets, you'll find a piece of blue tape. You're going to need that as well. I'm going to go ahead and remove my blue tape and just stick it to my table so that I have it when I'm ready. You're also going to need your colored squares of tissue paper. You should have these in red, yellow, orange, and brown, all those beautiful fall leaf colors. You're also going to need your leaf template sheet cut out. Now I've gone ahead and cut mine out, so you'll want to go ahead and do that as well before you get started. You're going to need a pair of scissors to do that, as well as some additional cutting that we're going to be doing in this project. You're going to need either an ink pen, a Sharpie marker, or even a pencil if that's all that you can find and is available to you. We're going to use this for tracing out our leaf templates onto our Suncatcher sheet that we're going to make. And also in your kit you have a few other things. Now you can use these or you may not want to use them, but you have a piece of twine that you can use. You have a piece of monofilament. This is clear, kind of like fishing line string. And you also may want to gather a stick from outside. Now it can be anywhere 8 to 12 inches. A smooth stick works best. It doesn't have to be straight. It could be kind of curly and curvy. That would be very cool. But just any old stick that you can find outside. Preferably one that's not very brittle. This one feels pretty strong. If I wanted to, I could snap it, but it's nice and strong. It's not just going to fall apart in my hands. So you'll need to gather that and your scissors from your house and your pen or pencil. Okay, so we're going to start with our contact paper. You'll want to take your contact paper sheets and separate them. You've got 2 here. So I'm going to set one to the side, and I'm going to get just one of my sheets of contact paper. And I want to turn it so that if I open it up, I can notice that there's kind of a glossy, plasticky side and then the papery side. The papery side is actually just a little peel-off sticker so that we have this nice clear sheet that's very sticky. And so the first thing I'm going to do is kind of just on the edges separate my contact paper from that sticky sticker sheet. And I'm going to try and lay it out. Now it's curly, I know, but I'm going to lay it out and I'm going to peel it back a little bit. You'll notice that this is a plasticky piece, and I peeled back my sticker, and I'm going to just tear off one piece of my tape, and I'm going to tape that down to the table. Taping it down to the table will keep the contact paper from curling up on you. You can also tear your tape ahead of time into 4 or 5 little pieces. That will definitely help. So I'm going to just peel this back a little bit more just at the top. You'll notice I'm not trying to peel it back from this stuff back here. I'm going to tape that down just so it's nice and flat and doesn't have any wrinkles in it. And I'm going to tape this other edge. Hard to see, I know, but that's that top edge. There we go. So that's taped down to the table. Now I'm going to really slowly and carefully peel back this piece of paper, and I can just use my fingers to sort of hold it in place. And I'm going to put some tape on the bottom edges just to keep it in place, just like that. So even if you can't see, we have, because it's clear, we have this sheet of contact paper. It had kind of a little bump in it there. Stuck down, and the sticky side is up. You can hear it probably, that my finger can stick to that. Now I'm going to gather my tissue paper squares, and I basically just want to cover this entire sheet, and I'll show you what I mean. I want to completely cover my entire contact paper sheet with tissue paper squares, and I like to just start with one color and sort of put them randomly around. And the great thing is you don't need any glue. This is super sticky, so you just get a sheet of tissue paper and press it down. And if you get one that kind of folds on you, one of your little tissue paper squares, don't worry about that. It's not a big deal. And your tissue paper can go off the edges. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have the whole piece of tissue paper stuck to it. So I'm going to go ahead and add some of another color now. Get some brown here. So our goal is to kind of create this really colorful surface, sort of Suncatcher surface for us to cut leaves out of. And once you stick it down, you can't really peel it back up. So if one edge sticks to the sticky paper, then just go with it. You can't really reposition these. Once they stick down, they're stuck. And you do want to overlap them in places. You don't want to just put them, in one line of squares. You do want to overlap them because that sort of gives you some transition from one color to the other. So I kind of like to separate these with my fingers, just kind of pull them apart. Sometimes tissue paper squares want to stick together. But I'm just sort of overlapping them. I'm not being too careful about how I set them down, just sort of deciding where I want them to go. And I'm just going to put a little bit of each color. I did some red, I did some orange, I did some brown, and I'm going to leave some space for the yellow. And then once I get a little bit of all of my colors, I can come back in and add more colors if I want to. Okay, so I just have a little more space to cover. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is that you really don't want to have any clear space visible. So if you can see that you have an area like right in between these shapes, it's not a lot of space, but I do have some sticky area still there. I want to try to cover that up with tissue paper. I really don't want to have any areas that aren't covered, and even if that means overlapping a little bit, then I want to make sure I cover all the space. So I'm just going to add a few more here. I see one more. I'm going to add this too. All right. That's kind of folded. Okay. So now that I have my whole entire piece of contact paper covered in tissue paper squares, I want to sandwich this with another sheet of contact paper. So here's how I'm going to do that. It's a little bit tricky. Definitely, if you are working on this without a grown-up, this might be a great time to get your grown-up to come and give you a hand, because you really only get one chance at this. Once it's stuck, it's not really going anywhere. So I like to start out just by separating the two layers at the top, just to get the sticker paper peeled off just at the top, like that. And I just fold it back a little bit. Now just a little is showing, just a little is exposed, not a whole bunch. And I'm going to just try to line it up with the edges of my other sheet of contact paper that I have taped down. Now that means the tape is going to get sandwiched in there too, and that's okay. It's easy to pull out. But I'm just going to give it a good press along that top edge. And if you get a little wrinkle in it, it's not a huge deal. And I'm going to just pull on the paper to expose a little bit of contact paper at a time. I'm going to give it a little bit of a press with my hand, just like that, and then pull the sticker paper out a little bit more to expose a little more. And give that a rub. I'm going to do it again. I just keep doing this nice and slow. If you take the whole piece of paper off the back of your contact paper all at once, you have it's a lot greater chance that you're going to get a lot of wrinkles and bubbles. So that's just an easy way to keep it nice and smooth. Okay? So now it's not sticky anymore. And when I go to take my tape off, I can just kind of open up the sandwich there of contact paper and peel it off. So I just kind of peel that sandwich back from the tape a little, just a little, and peel that off. And if it tears a little bit of your tissue paper, that's not a big deal. You won't see that really. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, do that with all my tape. Okay, and now I have a sheet that should be able to see some light through. It's really beautiful when the light shines through, and I have all these nice fall colors overlapping each other. So I'm going to take this sheet now, and I'm going to cut out the shape of some leaves. Now in your Family Day at Home kit, you had a sheet of paper with 3 leaf templates. A very simple leaf, a maple leaf, and an oak leaf. Now, you can cut out as many leaves from this paper as will fit. So what I'm doing is just kind of placing my templates on my Suncatcher paper that I created, and I'm going to just trace these templates onto the plastic. Now, an ink pen works well for this. A Sharpie marker works great for this. A pencil actually works just fine as well, because you can sort of see an indentation. It's not a very dark mark, but you can sort of see the mark or indentation. But an ink pen will work on this. If you want something darker, a Sharpie marker is great. So I'm just going to hold my template still and trace around the outside of it to get that shape onto my contact paper. Now, as you approach the edges, be careful that your leaf isn't going off of the edge, and try to make sure that your leaf is where you have your tissue paper, because I do have some places on the edges where I don't have tissue paper, and I want to make sure that that tissue paper is everywhere my leaf is. Okay, so I'm going to just do that one. And once you get one of each on there, or if you only want to use one type of leaf, if you want this to be all oak leaves or all maple leaves, that's totally fine as well. So I've done one of each, and then I like to see what I have room for. So I might have room for another oak leaf and another just simple leaf right here, or I might have room for just one more maple leaf if I wanted. But try to get as many leaves out of it as you can. So I'm just going to stop here with 3 for the purposes of this demonstration. But now I'm going to cut out the shape of my leaves. I want to cut slowly and carefully. If cutting is a little bit tricky for you, it might help to cut the leaves apart. So like I can come through here and just cut them apart first, and then I can cut out the really complicated leaves with lots and lots of curves. That makes it a little simpler, so I'm not having to fight with the whole sheet of paper. Okay, I have my shapes all cut out. Now, if you would like to continue cutting, I still have a little bit more paper. I could have definitely have fit at least one more shape on here, maybe 2 more leaf shapes. But I'm just going to use one of each for the demonstration today. If you've decided, or if you found a stick that you would like to use, I'll show you how to put that together really quickly. So you're going to use your piece of twine, and you're just going to tie it on one edge. I like to use a square knot, and that's kind of a knot like when you're tying your shoes. You do over and under and pull. But to do a square knot, you're going to go right over left and under, and then pull it tight, and then go left over right and under and pull it tight. So Then for the second one, I like to try and decide about how long I want my string to be. It should be kind of like a V shape, an upside down V shape here to a point like a triangle. And I want mine to be about that long, so I'm going to cut it with a couple extra inches down here for the knot. I don't need all that. And again, just to show you with the knot tying, I'm going to take the right string, put it over the left, go under, pull it tight. Okay, and then I'm going to put the left over the right and go under and pull it tight. And that should be a nice sturdy knot. So now I have this pulled, and you can just kind of pull on those knots to make sure they're firm. If they still seem a little bit loose, you can always tie it one more time. But this is the base for my hanging mobile. So I've got sort of a similar thing right here. So now that we've prepared that, we want to get our monofilament ready. Now I know this is very hard to see on the camera, but I have a long strip of monofilament, and I'm going to cut it into 3 different pieces. 1 piece for each of my leaves. Now if you have 4 leaves or 5 leaves, you might want to kind of cut it into a piece for each of those to make sure that you had enough for each of them. So now I have 1 piece for each of my leaves. I want to show you how to attach it. It's really, really simple. We're just going to make a small hole in the stem of our leaf. Now you could use a hole puncher if you have one available. I don't have one here today. I'm going to show you how to do it with just a pair of scissors. So what I'm going to do is kind of fold my stem over just a little bit. I'm going to take my stem, fold it over onto the leaf a little, and using my scissors, I'm just going to create one little cut, just a little slit in my leaf. And it may not be easy to see, but I have a little slit right there in my leaf. And I'm going to find my monofilament. It's easy to lose it because it's clear. And I'm going to just stick it right through the hole I just made. Just like that. And I'm going to tie it. Now I don't want to pull this knot too tight. I want to make sure if I have a little bit of room in between, that's okay. I want the knot to be secure, but I don't want to tie it too tight or else it might rip my paper. So again, I'm just doing a little square knot, right over left and under, left over right and under. Pull tight. Okay, and now my leaf is hanging. Now there's lots of ways that you could display your leaves. If you don't want to go through all this hanging, you could just kind of tape these right to your window and it would be a beautiful fall decoration. If you don't have a stick available, you could always just hang these from something in your house. So you could put the monofilament on it and tie it at the other end. If you have a nail or a hook or somewhere near a window, you could hang them in front of a window for a beautiful fall display. But if you were able to find a stick outside, you can also take this monofilament and just tie it to the other end. You're going to tie to the stick. And same thing. It's only tricky because the monofilament is very thin and it's hard to see. This is definitely something a grown-up might need to help you with. Okay, over left and under, left over right and under, pull it tight, and there we have it. We have our maple leaf hanging from our mobile. Now we can trim some of these little edges that are hanging out here just so that they're not visible. And if we take a look at our finished one, you'll notice that I've kind of hung them at different heights so that some are closer to the stick and some are farther away, but they're not all even. It gives the impression that our leaves are just falling straight from the tree, and you get these beautiful colors, these beautiful transparent colors if you hang this in front of a window. I hope that you enjoy making our fall leaf mobile.